As consumers, we're all spending much more time online. That's also where your customers are, and that should be making it easier to connect with them. But this is a double-edged sword because as a result of a fallout of the virus, in particular now, not everyone is in market right now. And that highlights the need to be smart with your approach and targeting. The answer, in which case, could be intent-based marketing, which is all about targeting those who are showing signals that they are in market right now for your solutions. So if you would like to laser focus your marketing and make every penny count in helping your company connect with qualified leads and convert them into customers, then you need to watch today's show on the 414 Live. Yes, hello, good morning. My name's James Rostance, and this is the 414 Live with you each and every, normally on a Thursday, but today on a Friday because we've got a special guest whose schedule would only allow him to come on the show today. So there we go. The show is, of course, for you as a professional B2B marketer, whether you work in-house at a company or agency side, or indeed if you are a company executive with a hands-on interest and role in your company's sales and marketing. And the promise of the show is, of course, to help you do better at your job and expand and enhance your knowledge each and every week. So this week on the show, we're going to be delving into the world of intent-based marketing, or intent marketing, to give it a snappier name. And to help with all of that, as I mentioned in the intro, we are now going to go live to Fleet in Hampshire. Please welcome Mr. Matt Laybourne. Matt, good morning.
Good morning, James. Good morning, everyone. From gloriously cloudy Fleet.
Yes, and we were. This is for listeners and viewers right now. Just as we were getting ready to go on out and do the show, Matt wasn't overly supportive of the Fleet area, but I always like to find the positive in everything, and I think you would agree with me in saying that I don't think there's a single town in England or possibly Scotland that has got a better fame for motorway service stations. So, you know, play to your strengths. So live from Fleet.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah.
So your specialism is fully in intent marketing. So could we dive straight in, and could you give your way that you like to describe what intent-based marketing is?
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it's a big topic. So intent marketing, and this is, I suppose, a lot of this is from my background. I used to work in e-commerce, and it's about finding people who are in market by whatever channel I can find them. So the thing with intent marketing is finding the signals of your customers who are basically showing signs that they're researching the topic that you or industry you might work in, the topic of product that you might be selling or the service you might be selling. So intent marketing is basically making sure we target those who are actively interested in what you're doing, as opposed to targeting a whole total addressable market, which isn't good use of your money. Targeting absolutely everyone who looks like the sort of organization you want to sell to is not a great approach by any stretch. So intent marketing is where we're going, okay, let's cut that audience down significantly sometimes and focus on those who are already interested. So it's a great way of making sure our marketing budgets go a lot further, especially when things are a little bit tighter these days.
Yeah, and well, we've got a whole lot to talk about, but why do you advocate that intent-based marketing is so relevant right now? Could you give us some background on that?
Yeah, to kind of take it back a few steps, there's kind of conflicting, like a dichotomy of information out there in the market at the moment that we as B2B marketers need to be really wary of. So on one hand, advertising at the moment on platforms like Facebook and Google and LinkedIn has never been cheaper. And the rationale for that is everyone's online. Everyone is sat at home and they're researching things and, they're looking around bits and pieces. But the dichotomy is, and the other side of the picture is, conversion rates are at their lowest. There's lots of data coming out all the time saying that this is dropping day by day. So we're really conscious here that you've actually got to really focus on the people who are actually in market. And I suppose to look at it from an industry perspective, things like retail, things like automotive, construction industries, those people are at home and they're online, which looks great. It's easy to reach them, but they're struggling to survive at the moment. A lot of them are on furlough as well. So targeting them and trying to get them to spend money is not a great approach at the moment. We need to focus on the industries that have thrived in this time. Unfortunately, well, it's a strange scenario it is, but some of them have done really well. So industries like technology and communications, those verticals are performing really well. So that's the first almost level of intent is, we can get really good conversion rates from the people who matter at this point.
So what would be your prescription for how to approach this then? So yes, there we go. I'm getting better, by the way, at not firing off 3 or 4 questions at the same time. I get excited and into what you as the guest are talking about, and I confuse people. So, what would you prescribe as being the first step in all of this?
Research. It's all about research at this point. So I would look at 2 or 3 different areas. First of all, look at wider kind of macro environmental research. So you will obviously know the vertical that you currently sit in and the types of customers you normally go to. So it's a case of looking through some of the big reports that have come out. So the likes of Gartner, Forrester, a few others as well. ZDNet, which is a publisher, has got some really good data on some of the verticals that are showing signs of being okay in this pandemic. They're doing all right, and they're still actively trying to purchase bits and pieces. So that's the first step. Let's look at those verticals that actually matter, and then taking it a layer down. There's also lots of data available at the moment, which is showing us the types of products people are buying. So a lot of like home computing or personal computing for employees, that's a really popular market at the moment because everyone's working from home. Communications, again, is another really good area to be looking at. So you're starting to kind of dissect things a little bit. So once you've got that macro environmental perspective, cases then to look at your own data, and that might be going into your CRM or your marketing automation. And you're starting to basically look and understand, okay, how many of our existing customer base or prospects at the moment sit within those spaces, because that is starting to signal and define a market that you can go into in this, again, strange times. But those people are going to have a higher propensity to be interested in your services than organizations who simply might be struggling to survive at the moment. Spending money on them is not a good move at this point. So a really long answer to a simple question. Yeah. What's the answer? But the answer is research, very much so.
Okay, so how about this? If we're playing devil's advocate for a second, what if you're a company, B2B company, of course, and you're concerned that your market isn't buying right now? What should you do? How do you address that?
Again, it's looking at every part of the organization that you're in. So with a lot of the clients that we've been working with, we've been asking them as well to speak a lot with the sales teams too, because the sales guys are having a really hard time at the moment trying to get through to people, get through to customers and things like that. So what are they finding as well on the telephones and through email? Are there certain areas of response that we should be looking at? So start with the sales team, because they might have that nugget of information where they're like, do you know what, we're getting something really good in this vertical, this type of organization is buying, and that can actually fuel the marketing approach and go, okay, we can spin up a campaign off the back of that. We think there's enough of a opportunity to go for it, because ultimately as marketers, our job is to drive sales. Like that's kind of the point of marketing, isn't it? Yeah. So let's start with sales and work out what they're seeing as what's working in the market and support them as best we can at this point, because us just picking who we think is right, only to find out it goes through to sales and they're like, these guys don't have any money. We've not really done ourselves a very good service.
I think that's awesome. Yes, I love it. I do genuinely love it when this concept comes up, that when marketing teams interact and really work closely with sales teams, results shoot up, and that puts you in the Premier League. B2B marketers and B2B companies, I guess, with that. So tell me, where does all of this fit in within ABM? Does it complement, or is it ahead of, behind? Where does it fit?
Somewhere in the middle. It absolutely needs to complement it. If anything, it needs to inform ABM at this point. Before this, again, crazy change of the world happened, everyone had their own ABM programs and target accounts. But this is a variable no one would have accounted for, because it changes everything overnight. Some of the target accounts you might have been going for 3 months ago have simply fallen off. They're simply not going to be a market anymore. So intent needs to inform ABM again. So instead of just targeting who we think we want to target, let's use the data. Let's look at that macro environmental research. Let's speak to our sales teams. Let's look in our own first party marketing automation and CRM and go, okay, there's little pots of opportunity here, and they look like these types of companies, and it's drawing up a bit of a battle plan to go, let's go back out to this part of the market. Let's go out to this ABM company, ABM target account list, and really use intent to drive that. Because again, we need to be speaking to accounts who actually want to engage with us and the sales teams.
Right. So what we've got so far then is first and foremost, reaching out and having a good sit down with the sales team to work out what's working, what previously worked, and would I be right in saying that you're actually asking for their advice, right, on who to go after? And is there anything else maybe you should be asking the sales team to help with this?
Yeah, definitely. So there's who, first of all, who's in market, who should we be speaking to? That's kind of the obvious one. But there might be other elements there that we simply can't predict. So what are the kind of taking it a layer down from just simply targeting, what are the specific stories that we should be adjusting our content marketing and our messaging to? Because the sales team might again have that kind of nugget of insight and go, do you know what, we need to go in with this type of angle, this type of approach that is really resonating at the moment, because all of a sudden this target organization may have changed their entire focus to enabling employees to work from home or trying to keep people happy and those bits and pieces. So actually we can use that intel to drive a content marketing approach which shows empathy, which shows understanding, and is a very supportive kind of, we're here to help. Because the last thing organizations want at the moment is a pushy sales approach. And there's some really nice data again that I saw on LinkedIn a couple of days ago, where the companies who are taking a softer call to action and who are opening up products and licensing for trials and things like that are the ones who are seeing the biggest impact at the moment. Because we've all got to kind of look after each other a little bit and our organizations. So there's a lot to be learned from starting with the sales team and bringing it back into marketing.
So what would you give as a really nice example of all of this put into action right now? So where maybe a company has adapted what they've done as a result of speaking with their sales team and are now putting this into effect?
Yeah, really good question. Do you know what? There's a couple of clients we're working with at the moment. I haven't got like a big like Apple-esque size example to give you, but in terms of the B2B tech heartlands,
perfect.
We've got a couple of examples of that. But that's something we've been sharing this intelligence with a couple of our clients at the moment. There's one client in particular who I won't name just at this point, who we've been working really closely with their head of sales to actually understand what he's seeing on the ground floor and the kind of conversations his guys are having. And it changed our entire campaign approach. And we've had to overspend on this account a little bit, which is fine. But we saw very early on running this campaign, we were trying to target the whole market again, of the type of customer they go to. And we spotted really quickly within the first week, this isn't going to land. We need to really get in front of the sales guy and go, dude, how do we switch this up a little bit? What are you seeing as success? What are the verticals that are working for you? So we used his intelligence alongside some macro research and go, we need to cut this audience. I think we ended up cutting it by like 80% and going, actually, we're just going to focus on quality rather than the quantity that you guys are used to. Mm-hmm. So that's in kind of the mid stages at the moment, but we've seen an increase in conversion rate. We've seen more leads coming through to the teams to work with. And we've set up a really tight feedback loop with this head of sales, because we need to know what those leads are saying. Because if it's, again, a vertical that's just doing a lot of research ready to come out of the pandemic, they might not be the right people we're talking to again. So I think it's a strong example of just whoever you are and whatever industry you're in, you need to be really working closely with either internal stakeholders if you're brand side, or if you're agency side. It needs to dig further than just the marketing team and work out how the sales team are picking things up as well.
And ultimately, what is this producing? Is this for you to produce content or combine content and outreach of some kind? What does the actual result look like?
Yeah, it's kind of everything. We've got to be super agile how we change stuff, even if it's again taking it down 2 or 3 levels. But it should be informing everything. It should be informing our messaging as a bare minimum. We need to show more empathy in our tone of voice and understanding of what our clients or customers are going through. We need to make sure the content is relevant. I mean, we were still writing content 3 months ago, which is, you could argue it potentially is a little bit salesy. It's the traditional top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. A lot of that's gone out the window at the moment. Like we're dealing with in unprecedented times. So, we have to kind of look, is this the right approach, and work closely and go, it might be a little bit of a redesign of your marketing engine. It might be a lot shorter than it used to be. It might have to be a little bit longer, but it's crucial now more than ever to understand the data across the whole organization, the marketing and sales team, in your automation, in your CRM, and understanding what good performance looks like, because this is a variable we haven't accounted for. So we need to maybe go back to basics and make sure we're doing it right, rather than assume the old way is the right way. And that's never always the case.
Absolutely. So tell me, there must be some awesome tech behind the scenes that you use for all of this. Could you lift the lid on maybe some of the tech that's used to deliver all of this?
I'll give away all my secrets, James. That would be a nightmare.
That which you're comfortable in sharing.
No, I'm joking.
Okay.
Do you know what? There's so many layers we can go to. The really good thing at the moment is, it sounds strange to use it, but Google's a great point of call to understand. Just start using search terms around IT spending or technology spending, whatever your industry is. There's always a whole host of reports from the Forresters, the Gartners, this world. So great for macro research. But another tool I absolutely adore is something called BuzzSumo. So BuzzSumo actually crawls all through the different search engines, and it's looking for like the most shared content. So you kind of get the story underneath the headlines and the big PR front sometimes. And you can find a lot of really interesting content about what's going on in the market there. So that's a great tool for crawling the web and getting some better third-party detail. But for running things internally, you need a really good engine. You need to have something that's really user-friendly that you can jump into now. I mean, we're dealing with smaller teams. The whole ops team that we might have had as a marketing function, some of that might not be there anymore. So we've got to get hands-on again. So understand how to use your HubSpots, your Marketos, and your Pardots. What's the data telling you? And that's absolutely vital at the moment. You've got to really get back in there and get hands-on and run a few campaigns and test and learn things. So it's the engine and it's the third-party detail. Those are the big 2 things I'd look for.
Perfect. Right, quickly, for anyone just joining us right now, we've got Matt Laybourne live from Fleet on the show today, talking about intent-based marketing. And I suppose this would be a good time, actually, for you to clearly define what's the goal of intent-based marketing.
Yeah, it's a really good question. The goal is about driving revenue. The key thing is that we're not giving sales teams leads that are simply just not appropriate at this time. The budgets are lower at the moment for most marketing teams that we're dealing with. For most agencies that are out there are all seeing a huge drop in revenues at the moment. So we're in a marketplace where the money's disappeared for so many organizations. So it's about being just really smart and making sure your money and your attention is focused on those areas that actually can drive revenue for sales teams and keep in some cases keep organizations going, keep them afloat, keep sales teams employed and marketing teams going as well. So intent absolutely has to be everything at the moment. It simply isn't viable to have these big brand campaigns that we used to have in B2B sometimes. B2C brands can handle it a bit here because food and other organizations and supermarkets can afford to spend at this point. But for the rest of us, we need to be smart. We need to be savvy. So the goal is to chase the revenue, and we need to use intent to do that.
Okay. How do you actually measure intent then in that case?
Yeah, there's another good cue. So there's three layers of intent that I look at. So you've first party intent. So first party intent is what you already own. So that is the information that is coming through to your website. Some brands may have like IP trackers and things like that. So you can tell which brands are coming through to your website. So that can start to give you an early indicator. There's industry verticals that are showing lots of interest. Using Google Analytics, you can see what that behavior starts to look like. But crucially, your first party data is mainly in your marketing automation and in your CRM. So hopefully there's a big chunk of data in there and you've got some always on campaigns going, or you're at least testing different verticals to see what the response rates look like. And I'd recommend doing that as a first point of call. Let's try different verticals and start to understand, are we getting opens and clicks and qualification from certain areas that we weren't expecting. So you're dipping your toes in the water to see what's warm and what isn't.
Okay, I was going to just ask then. So, what sort of data are we looking for here? Then you mentioned opens and click rates, but is there more that you can use and look for?
Yeah. So beyond your first party data, it would be highly recommended at this point to lean on third-party publishers and intent aggregators as well. So the likes of Bombora, the likes of Science as well. So to quickly explain those two levels. Yeah, Bombora and Science. It's got a funny name. So Bombora and Science have the ability to track at a very holistic level IP data and cookie data that basically organizations and people within those who are looking and researching certain topics. So to give you an example, you might see a certain organization who's researching heavily around cloud computing or cloud IT. So we would consider that a signal of intent. They're in market, they're still researching those bits and pieces in spite of a pandemic being on at the moment. So that first of all is telling you, okay, there's these types of organizations that we could be looking to approach, and you can start to fine tune your digital marketing tactics to focus on those types of companies. And the other layer that I referred to is publishers. So it's a really good idea at this point to cuddle up, forgive the phrasing, with the likes of IDG, with the likes of TechTarget, because they've got huge organic presence. So anyone going into Google and typing cloud IT or technology or anything of those types, they're going to land on an IDG or a TechTarget website. And those guys have done an exceptional job of collecting that data, understanding what these people look like in terms of names, second names. They've opted in, they're reading content, and that's a really good place to get your brand positioned at this point, because that's where the levels of intent are. So to summarize it, it's three layers. You've got your aggregators at the top, Science and Bombora, who can look at it very holistically. You've got all the publishers who are kind of dotted across the middle, who are picking up a lot of search traffic, and then at the very bottom you've got your first party data, which is your own marketing automation and CRM information.
Perfect. Could you just go for that one more time? When you started your summary, then the internet connection died down ever so slightly, and I know that I was struggling to hear.
Oh no!
Yeah, I know the third, the second, and the first level. So one more time, with the names of the services that you're able to use to get that data. So could you break those down one more time?
Sure. Yeah, so to summarize in terms of intent data to look for, you've got your three layers. You've got your top layer, which is your holistic aggregators of data and intent. So the likes of Science, the likes of Bombora, they can look at IP and cookie data at a very broad level of the companies that are still in market and looking for your types of solution. The middle layer is all your publishers who are picking up a huge amount of search data from Google, from Bing. So the likes of TechTarget, IDG, CIO Magazine, and people like that. People who are looking online for, cloud technology, for example, are going through to those websites and engaging with that content. And we can work with those publishers to get our brands positioned there as well. And your final point of call is your first party owned data. So what's already in your marketing automation and your CRM? Who are the organizations who are still engaging with your brand? Because they're very much your low hanging fruit and possibly the first place you should be looking for those who are still in market.
Perfect. I really like that because you're really advocating a very strategic approach to finding out who to go after. Is that a fair way of summarizing really this approach?
Yeah, absolutely. It's back to the drawing board at the moment. We cannot carry on as we were. It doesn't work. You could be wasting a lot of money, and that comes with a lot of scrutiny. So the pressure's on a little bit. And we really need to be focusing on the things that are driving value for the business. So, yeah, it's back to the drawing board. It's looking at the strategy and the planning and working out where we should place our bets.
Nice. Quick hello this morning to regular full-on friends of the show, David and Gamdan. Good morning to you guys. There we go. And what I wanted to quickly ask is, what would be the main things that you would want for people to avoid doing in terms of mistakes in all of this?
Yeah. The thing to avoid doing is carrying on as you were and hoping it works. And it's really hard. I know so many organizations have probably invested huge amounts in campaigns that was going to define 2020 for them, or 2021 even. And there's a lot of effort that goes into that in planning and creating content and the stories, the narrative and the tactics to get out to market. But everything has changed. Quite simply, that campaign might not be fit for purpose. At the very least, it's going back to the drawing board and going, does this still work? Because it might be tweaks to the messaging. It might be tweaks to the copy. It might be a whole replan to actually to fit the purpose of what we're doing at the moment and how to work around the pandemic. So yeah, it's a tough one, but don't carry on as we were, which is the opposite of the very British phrase, isn't it? It's absolutely the opposite. We need to do something else. Let's go back again and work it out from the beginning.
I suppose the polar opposite would be panic and don't carry on. But I suppose what you're advocating right there is somewhere in between. So don't carry on, but sit and have a ruddy good think about. Ruddy, what a great word.
Yeah, I dare I say it, be cautious to coin a government phrase, but it sort of works in a strange way, dare I say it.
Yeah. Nice. Well, hey, what would in that case? Because it's exactly midday, and I like, by the way, that we can see in the background your TV, which has got a clock, which has a nice verification that we are indeed doing the show live. There we go. Just about to hit. See, look at that. Just about to hit midday. So, could I ask you then to summarise and give the viewers and listeners the core takeaway of today's show, but also one extra nugget, if you could squeeze and extract that in some capacity.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
The challenge is laid down right there.
Yeah, if you haven't already done it, it is go back to the drawing board and establish what's working. So speak to the sales team, go to the sales team and work out what is working at the moment for those guys. They might be heavily reduced in capacity and operations and leads, but we've got to work out what is working for those guys, because ultimately marketing's job is to drive revenue for the sales team and to drive good leads through to those guys. So speak to them and then go away and have a plan. And it's evaluating and auditing. Is what we were doing the right thing given the situation we're in? Is it the right thing for our sales team as well? So the nugget to go with this is to be brave. Being timid and not doing anything or being scared of change at this point is not a behavior that's going to be endearing and get the results that we're really looking for. So it's being brave and allowing yourself to make changes and maybe even appealing for a tiny bit of budget here or there to make sure your campaign is fit for purpose. The benefits in the long run are there to see. If you can get things in, get leads back into the sales team and hopefully get those guys converting as well with, good content and sales enablement. then you'll come out as the winner of this. But fortune only favours the brave. I can't believe I just said that, but it does. So you need to adopt that mantra at this point.
Matt, I think that's just a beautiful summary to everything. Seriously, thank you so much for that. Now, what would be of use? Could I ask you to put the links to any recommendations that you've got in the post on this on LinkedIn, and I'll make sure then that it also goes on the podcast show notes for when that goes out. And at the same time, as soon as you're posting that, I would hope that people can then connect with you on LinkedIn. Afterwards, there we go. All right.
I'll be delighted. No worries.
I did completely forget to do some questions and answers today, but I just want to say hello quickly to Bina right there. Bina, hello. Yes, there will be a recording to the show, and in fact, I'll cover that in full in just a second. But in the meantime, hey, look, Matt, thank you ever so much for joining me on the show. This has been as good as I'd hoped it would be, actually. So yes, in fact, better because you managed to slip in that movie liner there of "Fortune favours the brave." Yeah,
I don't know where it came from, but it landed somehow. So thank you so much for having me.
Awesome stuff. Mr. Matt Laybourne, live from Fleet in Hampshire this morning. Thank you very much for joining me. All right. There we go. So yes, for the benefit of Bina and everyone else watching, you can indeed check out previous episodes. They are all on the 414.net. There we go, web address on screen. The 414.net for all previous episodes, as well as your subscription options, because the show is available on every single podcast channel there is, as well as, of course, on YouTube. And we do it live every week here on LinkedIn Live, first and foremost. And you can also watch on YouTube as well. There we go, on our official channel. So there we go. 414.net for all subscription options. And in the meantime, my name's James Rostance. This has been the 414 Live, and I look forward to having you join us on the show same time next week.